Well, the winter meetings are right here. They are this week, and we're hearing that the Astros are allocating money and prioritizing Jose Altuve and not Alex Bregman. We're going to talk about this and some other news in Major League Baseball on this edition of Locked On Astros.
Welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can he find you on X?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros. What's up, Eric?
Not much. I've just been having a good day. It's my 45th birthday. I'm okay.
Hey, dude, happy birthday, man.
So I've been spending it with my kids and a special someone. And so it's been just a great day overall. And so I'm happy to talk Astros baseball with you. And I'm really also thankful for all our listeners, everybody that's become an everyday or somebody that listens to our podcast every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go and subscribe to us. Go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Check out the Locked On Astros podcast and become an everydayer. Go make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you check out your podcasts. Go and check us out. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started today. So I know a lot of people want to say, well, we want for Christmas, we want Altuve, we want Bregman, we want Tucker, we want Valdez. Let's go ahead and lock up some of the younger guys, Diaz too. But the problem is you just don't have the money to do that because it takes a lot of capital to do this. I've been watching this show called Billions, and not everybody has the money that this guy does in this show Billions. So I know that Jim Crane has a lot of money, but it also, you have to stay within the rules. And I see a lot of people out there responding to Bob Nightengale's article today. We're going to talk a lot about that in the show. And they're calling Jim Crane cheap. And so why don't you go out there? This guy's a legend. Alex Bregman, do it what you can. We'll talk about why Bob Nightengale and a lot of other people said that he's probably not going to be an Astro past this year, and why they're prioritizing Jose Altuve.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, really, I think, Eric, this is something that a lot of people maybe have seen leading up to this point. I really thought that Bregman and Altuve would stay together. You almost have that Biggio Bagwell type connection with these two. You thought you had that with Correa and Altuve, but especially with all the post-game interviews that Bregman gave during the postseason, talked about, you know, he's the kind of guy that I want my son to grow up and be like. He makes everybody around him better, you know. And after Game 5 of the ALCS, you know, he just complimented Altuve, and he has a high regard, and he holds him up. I mean, Jose Altuve is the leader of this team, and so to me, it makes sense that the Astros say they're going to allocate money. And if Bregman's, you know, asking price is $300 million plus, the Astros aren't going to be able to do that. They're not going to do that. Altuve is not going to take that kind of money. And so that is the problem. Bregman's younger. Altuve's older. It's easier to get the deal done with Altuve. You have a sense of loyalty there. You keep your guys. So this may be the last run that we see of Bregman and Altuve, you know, two of the guys that are still here that are playing every day from this 2017 roster.
Yes. And so I know that you kind of mentioned it. What's going on is that Bob Nightengale in his article today basically said that Alex Bregman is probably out there seeking. He's going to, especially because he's only going to be 30 years old when he becomes a free agent. He's already making $31 million per year. So you're gonna have to give him a long-term deal. We live in a MLB world where you have to give these players long-term deals. The longest deal that the Astros have given was Altuve for 6 years.
Right.
And Altuve may have to accept a 6-year deal to go ahead. And I don't know if that's going to make him a lifetime Astro, but we'll have to see. But there's definitely been some talk about them extending him. But if you're looking at this, what you have to see is who are you? If you go ahead and put all this money towards Bregman, are you going to be able to do this? And so what he's saying, I'm trying to find it, but he's basically said that the Astros basically have convinced themselves, okay, we're not going to be able to afford Alex Bregman here. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep him. We can't afford to trade him. We still want to win a World Series in 2024. We've been talking about this the past few shows. You cannot trade him if you want to contend. At the same time, they feel like they can't sign these multi $30+ million players.
Right.
Time you need it. So what they're going to do is they're going to use this money that they would have had to extend Alex Bregman. They're going to go ahead and use that money to go all in and make Jose Altuve a lifetime Astro.
Right. And basically, to quote from Bob Nightengale's article, exactly what he was saying is he said the Astros have no interest in trading Alex Bregman.
Right.
He said that. They have also privately resigned to losing him in free agency. So privately means someone's told them, someone's kind of leaked this information, but apparently it's not super secret because he released it in his article. But to find it in this article by Bob Nightengale, I literally had to read the article twice because it's buried in the bottom of the
Around
article
the bases,
called,
I think.
yeah, around the base paths. And so I think it's appropriate. I mean, look, Altuve is your guy. You can afford to pay him because he's 34 right now, 34, 35.
34, yes.
Yeah. You're gonna sign him to a deal that keeps him in an Astros uniform the rest of his career. If you re-sign him now, Jose Altuve will not go to another team. I mean, you can bookmark that. There's no reason for a 39-year-old Altuve to play somewhere else if he's chasing 3,000 hits. He stays in an Astros uniform. He becomes a second Astro that's a 3,000 hitter. And I think if he gets to 3,000, I think he can easily pass Craig Biggio, to be honest with you. So I just look, I think the end is near with Bregman, and I hate it because I remember watching him back at LSU. We lived in Louisiana when he was an LSU Tiger. I've seen him grow up and literally been in an ALCS every year of his professional career. So he's had an amazing run. It's just going to be very odd seeing him and seeing another fan base embrace him because he's one of the most hated Astros on this team when he goes on the road.
Yeah, because he was one of the two players that actually stood up after the controversy. He made some public statements. And so a lot of people see him as part of the scandal. We all know that everybody hates Jose Altuve, even though he's one of the most likable guys in baseball. His story itself, the fact that he is the size he is and he can hit the ball as far as he can, and he can play better than this 6 foot something guy in New York. And so it's just amazing how people just hate Jose Altuve, but Bregman, he still gets the boost. So wherever he goes, if it's not in Houston, he's going to get booed, except for that one team. And it'll be funny if it's like somebody like the Dodgers or something like that.
I just think Bregman's the type of player. I don't think he's going to go to a team that he probably wouldn't say over his breath, but that he probably hates. Like, I just don't see him. But then again, I've never been in a been at a place where I can get a $300
Money
million
talks, dude.
contract.
Money
Yeah,
talks,
money
dude.
talks, and you know what walks. So that's true.
I mean, you hear, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but Ohtani is the favorites are I know the Blue Jays are in on it, but also the Giants. And so that would be money there, because I don't know how close the Giants are to winning World Series again, but we'll definitely have to discuss this in a second. We'll continue this conversation about Alex Bregman. Who's next up? Let's say we lose Alex Bregman. What do you do from there? I know we talked about for 2024 if the Astros trade him, but they're not going to trade him anymore. So you're going to have to groom a third baseman. So that's something we'll talk about in a second.
That's right. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the nation's #1 sports book. That's right. And it's the NFL season. The Houston Texans beat the surging Denver Broncos today. It was great. I gave you the money line last week. Let's give you the money line this next week because they'll face the Jets. What a great setup after a tough game. Go into New York and let's take care of business. The money line for the Texans versus Jets is -260 Texans, +215 Jets. So here's the deal you need to get in on. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in the action. The app is easy to use. It's got a wide range of betting options, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
All right, guys, go ahead and check out Locked On today. It has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel today. It's called Locked On Sports Today, and it's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts like us on the Locked On Astros, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So looking at everything, I know the Astros cannot afford to trade Bregman. I know it's going to suck just like the Angels. Like the Angels were not in contention. So they could have traded Shohei Ohtani and gotten some of the prospects or rebuilt their farm systems. The Astros really do need a shot in arm in the farm system. But at the same time, unless they are just a terrible team in 2024, I don't even see them trading Alex Bregman at the trade deadline or anything.
No. Yeah. I mean, look, guys, Alex is going to be here the full season. You're not going to trade him at the trade deadline. No one's going to take, half of that contract for a half a year to know that he's probably going to walk. And unless it's a contender, and a contender's not going to trade with the Houston Astros. You immediately have to start looking, like you mentioned before the break, you got to start looking what is up and coming. And the closest names that could come up and make an impact, and I think it's too soon for either one of these guys, is Will Wagner and Zach DeCenzo. Zach DeCenzo did go to the Arizona Fall League. His arrival time is considered to be like 2025, but who knows? I mean, one of these guys could come up, Eric, and make a difference. But you've got a full season with Alex Bregman, and like you said, you've got to be grooming that guy. Who is it going to be? I don't know.
Whitcomb.
Maybe another Shea
He
Whitcomb.
hasn't played a lot of third base,
No,
but you can.
right.
You have all spring training. You have all 2024 to groom him to be a third baseman if he's your guy.
So
David
you got
Hensley,
Whitcomb.
is he your guy? We don't know.
Yeah, you got Hensley, you got Whitcomb, you got DeCenzo, and you got Wagner. You've got 4 decent options. They're not great. They're not great options, and that's not a slight to them. But you're going Alex Bregman to bring in his replacement. And again, we mentioned this. There's not that Jeremy Pena guy to insert in. And who knows, maybe at the end of 2024, 2025, Bregman's having that conversation with Will Wagner or one of those 4 that we mentioned and says, look, kid, I'm giving you the keys to the Cadillac. Here, go play third base like a champ. And who knows, who knows we get. Yeah, I think Shea is eligible
Yeah,
for the
he's
Rule 5
eligible to be
draft.
drafted. So we'll find out
So,
sometime this
yeah.
week if the team.
Yeah, so we don't know,
gets him.
but those are names that if the Astros have them. Now, if the Astros keep him and he doesn't go Rule 5, doesn't he have to be on that 40 man, right?
No.
No, he does not.
No, if nobody claims him, he can be added to the 40 man when the Astros want him. So
Okay.
So as long as he clears, nobody wants him during the World 5 draft, he's fine.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens with the whole Shea Whitcomb. He is the interesting one. It's just you don't have that top prospect. Remember, he was a first round pick. The Astros got him because of the whole Brady Aiken situation where they drafted him. Then he had the Tommy John surgery, then end up signing. And so you had the extra draft pick. And so he was one of Jeff Luno's pride and joys. I think they also got Lance McCullers in that draft as well. No, that was the Carlos Correa draft. Never mind. But Alex Bregman, since he's come up, the Astros have been to the ALCS 7 straight years. And so it's a shame. It's a shame if this is his final year with the Houston Astros. And I don't think we'll talk about Altuve in a little bit, but I really don't think it's Jim Crane being cheap. I mean, he's right at the luxury tax threshold. Yes, he could go over, but if you go over for so many years, you have to not only you have to pay the extra tax, but then that you have to start giving up some draft picks and international money. I don't have all of that in front of me, but it's not just the financial hit. It's also it hits you otherwise. So I think that Jim Crane is willing to go over for the right player. And I know what you're saying. Isn't Alex Bregman the right player? Yes, I think he is. But I don't think if it's a $300 million deal he's looking for. I just did the math. If that's an 8-year deal, that's $37.5 million per year. If that's a 9-year deal, that's $33.3 million per year. If that's a 10-year deal, that's $30 million per year. So it depends on how long that is. So is Alex Bregman with his, I love the guy, but as hot and cold as he can be, is he really worth sinking $300 million when you're trying to re-sign Kyle Tucker and Jose Altuve and try to build a team around him?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the guy that they are going to sign is going to be someone like Kyle Tucker, and I don't think it's going to take 10 years. And I think they probably have some clue in on that, knowing that Bregman is probably going to get this 10 years. But because the notion that Crane is cheap with the $217 million payroll is absolutely absurd. It's completely ludicrous to say that, number one. Number two, he's not cheap. 43, 29, 30, 19, 10, 17, 14. Those are all his highest paid players. Yes, one of them is Lance McCullers, and he masterfully worked that 5-year, $85 million deal. But at the end of the day, he's not cheap. He is smart. And billionaires don't become billionaires by writing checks to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that is in the company. Just in baseball isn't about, do I like the guy? Baseball isn't about, hey, he's one of baseball is what gets us from point A to point B, number one. Number two, what gets us to sustained success, because Jim Crane wants sustained success. And we are seeing the reason why we're having all these tough conversations, Eric, is because we did miss out on 2 major picks 2 years in a row, first and second round picks 2 years in a row. So the insane notion that the Astros weren't punished is absolute bullcrap. And the people that spew that false information, they know it's not true, because it absolutely still affects the Astros to this day.
Oh, yeah.
And so with all the jockeying and the moving of positions and different player development guys and, Jason Bell getting promoted, all these guys, the Astros are working their magic in the front office so that they can get back to some semblance in the minor league where they're considered more competitive in one of the better systems. Look, at the end of the day, Tucker is the guy that I think you give that deal to. I don't think it's going to take 10 years. And that's why I think Tucker is going to get that deal. And the reason why Alex Bregman doesn't get that deal is because he wants 10 years. That's the difference. That is the difference.
All right. So a lot of people are like, well, didn't Dana Brown, when he first was hired, didn't he come and say, well, I think that Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman should retire here? And I'm looking at it right here. At the end of the day, I think we get both guys done. It won't be anytime soon. We understand how important these guys are to the franchise. My prayer is they both retire here. They should both retire here. Bregman's a core piece. Altuve's a core piece. I think we should lock them up. So why, however many months this is after he was hired, why are we singing a different tune? It's because they tried. And I don't think that they're even close, especially with Alex Bregman. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about Jose Altuve in a second. And also, I know there's still some discussions with Martin Maldonado, but there's another catching name that's on the market that the Astros are interested in. Locked On today has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of today with local experts like us on Locked On Astros, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24 streaming channel. Speaking of news around baseball, I know that Shohei Ohtani, somebody in San Francisco, offered him free sandwiches for life if he signed with the Giants. I know that certain teams are backing off him. I know the Red Sox are one of them. But certain teams are realizing that we're talking about $300 million for Bregman. But somebody like Shohei Ohtani, who we don't know if he's going to pitch again, but this guy, it's not just 500 million anymore. It's possibly 600 million. And just think of the money that's not just from that's going to cost to pay the Shohei Ohtani, but just the revenue. It's probably about 25 million that you may be getting jerseys, people coming to watch Ohtani. He is a hot ticket. And so that's why you see all these teams going out of their ways to do that. And real quick, it does not look like Juan Soto is going to the Yankees. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, look, here's the thing. Juan Soto can go to the Yankees all he wants to. They're still not going to win a World Series. I mean, the Yankees are a terrible baseball club. They have good baseball players. They have former MVPs. They have a Cy Young winner. But they're basically, let's just call them the Angels of the East. They've got great players, but Eric, they had their worst year they've had in like 20 plus years. And that club has, I see nothing going on there in New York. But to hit on this whole thing we're talking about, the Astros, look, could the Astros sign Shohei Ohtani? Probably not. But have you heard about the TV deal that the Astros have? Now they have an app where you can get Space City Home Network. It's like $25 a month. Can you imagine how much money they would get if they signed Shohei Ohtani? Do you realize that market in Japan, the people that would download that app and pay $25, the return on that investment alone just from the app would make the Houston Astros and Jim Crane so freaking rich. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to sign Ohtani, but it is, Eric. It's not just about paying Ohtani. It's what you're going to get in return. And here's why I don't think it will go to 600 million. Because the first thing you mentioned before that, we know next year he's probably going to be relegated to a DH role, probably not going to pitch any, if at all. And if he becomes a single-sided player versus the two-way player that he's being marketed as, that to me does not garner 600 million. I understand the 500 million, the 10 years, 52 million. I understand that. But at the end of the day, those salaries, I mean, what? The Rangers just spent $1 billion in the last 2 seasons. They won a World Series. Good for them. But I don't see their success being sustained long-term. They're going to be bogged down eventually by salaries. They're going to have to trade off their assets. and they're going to deplete their farm system to
Right.
make, you know what I'm saying? So Jim Crane going forward is going to be smart. And Jim Crane is, everybody's in the chat. Someone said they heard a conspiracy theory that Jim Crane was selling the team. Jim Crane is not selling the team. They just announced they're going to build an entertainment center, and he owns pretty much just about every business around Minute Maid Park. He is not closing shop anytime soon. Jim Crane is the owner. He is the best owner the Astros have ever had. Give the man the respect. Look, man, he's got a tough job. This is a market of inflation. This isn't 1985, kids. $100 doesn't get you 10 gifts under the tree anymore. It may give you one. So that's the difference. The inflation of the salaries, where we're at. This team, though, still competes for the World Series in 2024.
I really think with everything we've heard, I think that the Astros are focused on trying to retain Jose Altuve. And I think it's probably going to take a 6 to 7 year deal, maybe a 6-year deal with a team option for a 7th year. I would say about $32 million per year, something like that. I don't see how the Astros could justify saying giving him a pay cut, especially with him having a great. I know he had an injured season, but that really wasn't his fault. We saw what he could do in the playoffs. So I think the Astros are going to have to give him a slight pay raise and try to go ahead and keep him till he's at least 40. And then from there, they can go year to year until he gets his 3,000 hits where he can go into Hall of Fame. Because at that point, that's going to be his motivation. It's not going to be about money. It's going to be about trying to get into the Hall of Fame, try to retire as Astro. So I think that Jim Crane is going to get it done. And I think what Dana Brown said, Dana Brown came like new teachers. When your first day at your job, you think you know everything. You think you can do anything. You think you can teach any student. And then you go out there and you realize what it is out there. And you're like, yeah, I might have overpromised. And so I think that's what Dana Brown is also doing here. And I saw the word pandering earlier and on Twitter. And I think that he was probably just trying to win over the Houston fans. Hey, I want you to like me. Well, this is what I'm going to try to do. And I think there was some sincerity there. I think that he really, after what the Atlanta Braves did, I think he really tried. And I'm not saying that there's not an extension with Alex Bregman or they don't try to bring him back once he becomes free agent. I just think that other teams are going to be just, hey, Bregman, come here.
I don't look. He wants to keep Bregman, but Bregman's got to come to it on the team's terms.
Right.
So if Bregman outprices himself, that's not Dana Brown's problem. That's not Dana Brown's fault. Dana Brown's problem is sustain winning over a long period of time and develop a system that continues to produce winning ball clubs. And you don't do that by paying $300 million contracts and knowing that you have Tucker and Altuve and then Framber. And I still think Framber is a trade candidate, a trade piece down the road, to be honest with you. I think he has a lot of value. I think he could be valuable to a lot of other teams. And we haven't even talked about it yet. There's a lot of things that the Astros could do. I don't anticipate the Astros to do anything during the winter meetings. I'm just going to be real honest. I think we're going to hear crickets. Y'all are going to get bored. Patience is a virtue, and it is going to be key this year. They're not going to make the big splash move.
I disagree. Right, I think they're going to go ahead and sign Tucker. And I mean Tucker Barnhart, not Kyle Tucker. So I know there's a lot of winners out there.
Good one, Eric.
So I think that there's a lot of people out there that still feel like Martin Maldonado is coming back to Houston. And I think the Astros would like to have him back in Houston, but will he want to be a part-time player? Would he want to take the pay cut of being a part-time player? Or is he going to go to another team where he's just not going to be, he's going to be the starter and he gets more money. So I know the White Sox, I think the Marlins, there's maybe the Padres, there's one other team that was interested in him. So I think that he's probably going to go there. But I don't think the pitchers were as reliant on Martin Maldonado as we were led to believe, but Tucker Barnhart is the name that we've heard recently. I forgot John Morosi, and I've also heard it from Chandler Rome, is that Tucker Barnhart is one of is talking to the Astros, and he's not somebody you should be like, oh, yay, we are saved. 2024 World Series, here we come.
Yeah, he's got a -6 offensive WAR and a
OPS plus of 48, which is not good.
Yeah, basically his WAR is 0.2. He's Martin Maldonado light. Look, go get Tom Murphy. Get me Tom Murphy, please. Go get Steven Vaught. Oh wait, he's the manager now of the Guardians. Look, get anybody to come in and step in and be a backup. I think Martin's time has come and gone. He was great when he was here, dedicated to the team like no other. But that's all I got tonight, Eric. It's a great show. Look, we're still going to be on here. Even if the Astros aren't doing anything, we'll talk about the other moves around the league. I mean, because this is Major League Baseball, and we are your most downloaded Astros podcast. Eric, take us out.
Yeah, the winter meetings have officially started, so we'll be hearing some information here and there, and we'll go and keep you updated for sure. Rule 5 is coming up, and a lot going on. And so thank you for listening to Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. He is Brett, the H-Town Wheelhouse, and we are the Locked On Astros podcast, your only daily Astros podcast out there, and we'll see you next time. Go Stros.
You threw me off with the Tucker thing.
Okay, next time I'll say no.